interrupt
So
whenever.
yeah, so what was it that led to your first major awakening experience where you kind of came face to face and you're like, holy
With your
shit,
non-duality.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
So
this is reality, and it's like
that
unquestionable.
happened really quickly on the path, actually, within the first year of spirituality, of like hardcore dedication and practice. So
That's awesome, because let me just say,
yeah,
a lot of people think they need to practice for 5 years
for
or
like,
10
yeah,
years. But Lucas
yeah,
is saying here he already had a major
within the
experience
first
within 1
year,
year.
I had a complete ego collapse and non-duality was realized.
That's awesome.
So, so, yeah, like before I say that, yeah, a lot of people think awakening is this really rare thing that only like the chosen Buddha like can do, but that's just not true. Like you can be a working husband with 2 kids and you can become enlightened if you just understand the practices and understand. So first you get the intellectual understanding, you understand the practices, you understand non-duality, you read the books, and then you get these experiences, you get these glimpses, and then you get these realizations. It's like this locked in, it's a permanent change in the structure of your consciousness and how you're perceiving reality in the present moment. So yeah, you just go up these stages. So
and there's
yeah,
no going back from there. It's
oh
just
yeah,
like I've had the experience. I've
yeah,
seen the truth. I can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
yeah.
It's out.
There's no
The genie's out
chance.
of the bottle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, and just let me just say, is this is one of the deception mechanisms that I was
Oh
talking
yeah.
about in my last video, thinking that, you know, awakening is something that only other people can do, but like I can't do it because, you know, I'm not smart enough or I'm not
Yeah,
dedicated
like you're
enough.
fundamentally broken,
Like,
as if like awakening isn't your true nature.
you are
It's
the
just an ego
only,
distortion.
you're the
Yeah,
only person who can become awakened. If you can't become awakened,
then
nobody
no one
can.
else can.
it's
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
your job. It's your
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, like it's you, like it's what you are. Like there's no such thing as like I can't become awakened. You know, like a cow can do it because like a cow is it. You know, like
Yeah.
any possible living being can realize it. So I was doing a lot of self inquiry. That's probably the biggest one. That is okay. So I mixed that with like vipassana, just mindfulness, and even just surrender to, you know, the present moment. You know, I'm just sitting still, pretty much Zen, do nothing. But
Mm-hmm.
I just call it just like surrender. You know.
Could you explain briefly, just very briefly, what is self inquiry, what is vipassana, what is surrender, do nothing?
Yeah, I was going to too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So vipassana is, the way I practice it is just body scanning. I start at my head and I scan every little micro sensation occurring. I feel the air coming out of my nose right here. Every possible feeling in my body, I just scan. And as I'm doing that, I make notes in my mind, not self, not self, not self. And I pretty much just go through every feeling and I realize that any feeling that arises is not me because it will always pass and they always do pass. And I don't pass. I'm always there. So same thing with the mind too. When thoughts arise, not me, not me. I even notice my desire to realize what I am, and that's also not me. So the whole self-inquiry process is also not me. So pretty much what self-inquiry is you're almost objectifying everything within your field of experience and you're trying to just recognize it as not self. It's like a scientist observing an atom, and that's pretty much what you're doing with self-inquiry. You're stepping back from everything within experience and you're just realizing that you are nothing within this particular field of experience, but you are what is giving rise to experience itself.
Exactly. So it's like whatever experience you have, whether I'm looking at a thought or if I'm looking at pain in my back or if I'm looking at a feeling in my heart, all of those are not you because you are the one who is aware of it.
Exactly. It's like, where was this feeling, you know, like 2 seconds before it arose? You know, these are all good questions. You know, they come out of, you know, nothingness, pure consciousness. But also surrender is really
Yeah.
powerful because the human, you know, ego, that whole psychological structure is pretty much built on this sense of me in the world and control, dominating and, you know, getting more for me. And surrender is literally the exact opposite of that. It's about just whatever happens in this present moment, allow it to happen fully, have no resistance to it whatsoever, and experience it 100% as it is. So whenever any thought or feeling is flowing through your body, you just allow it to flow perfectly, like a, high quality conductor of electricity. So copper, for example, conducts electricity very well with next to no resistance. So you have to be like copper and just
Be
let
like
all the
copper.
things flow through you.
Let everything
Like
flow through you without trying to change or
no manipulation.
manipulate. Exactly.
And
Don't
there's
change, just
there's a lot
allow.
of subtle manipulation too within surrender. People can use surrender as a way to feel better, but in this case, like it's about even removing the desire to feel better. It's just surrender for the sake of surrender. Just what happens if I sit here and my only real purpose is just to experience reality 100% as it is without any manipulation whatsoever.
Yeah, and sometimes that can even be so twisted as to see yourself manipulating and to
Yeah.
surrender to that, even
Yeah.
to surrender to your manipulation and to
Yeah.
and to be aware and watch it. It's so powerful. That's what Lao Tzu talks about, flowing with reality. That's how you transcend the ego.
Exactly. Because yeah, that the process, or really the practice of surrender, literally collapses the ego structure. And I mix that with self-inquiry because that's just, a basic inquiry into like, what is my ego? What am I?
What am
Really?
I? Who am I? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So
So
those
so how
practices
how would you
led me to a breakthrough. Yeah.
yeah, so I was gonna say, like, so compared to where you were before, like just like playing video games and just being lost, where like how have these practices changed your everyday experience, how you see yourself, practically, right? So I would talk
Yeah.
about your relationships or your, your health, these types of things.
Yeah. Um,
It's a
it's
big
funny
deal, I
because
know.
in a sense, nothing has ever, nothing about me has changed, but but that's a like a non-duality joke. But yeah,
Yeah.
everything has also changed. So
Everything's the same, but it's in a
what I am
different way.
hasn't changed, but yeah, everything's just been recontextualized, and how I relate to a lot of things has changed. So pretty much these practices have allowed me to do a lot of radical things that are almost unbelievable to the average person. So I will talk about this one breakthrough experience that I had, because this is probably the biggest one. And I was pretty much just at the park up the street from my house, watching clouds go by, sort of just detaching from experience, sort of just watching. And I was just lying down in the grass. And I leaned up against a soccer post. And I noticed that everything just kind of looked a little bit different. And I looked at my body in relationship to the external world, and I noticed that there was no more relationship between me and anything else, and there was just one thing appearing as many things. And that experience lasted about 10 hours. And during that experience, I was able to do some really radical things that can sound pretty crazy. Like I was tapping into telepathic states of consciousness. I was tapping into clairvoyance. I was also tapping into just channeling, which sounds really far out there, but
Yeah, so
anyone can
what's
really tap into it.
channeling is like, what is that?
Uh, Direct sort of communication with, pure consciousness or source, or like God, or anything,
So like
whatever like label,
receiving insight
receiving
or direct
information from,
downloads or information.
exactly. But it
That's
was
awesome.
it was like just a raw conversation almost, because like it was myself, and in that experience, I was just it was just everything was me, it was just me talking to myself. It's
It's
I,
your
I woke
own
up to what
wisdom.
I actually am.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that experience was insanely profound. And when I was walking by people on the sidewalk too, I could sense where in their body they had blockages or what like level of consciousness they were sort of coming at. I could sense their feelings and even their thoughts. I was so in touch with like their like being, because my awareness, like it almost felt like it like shot out of my head and my awareness was their body, and I could like penetrate like through their body almost.
And you can like
Because
feel their
I can,
tension, and you can
yes,
see
exactly.
like where it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was effortless too. It's not like I had to like attempt to do it. It's like upon like seeing someone, it was just there. It was the information was laid out for me right there. So this experience can sound impossible to a lot of people, but it's not. This experience actually took me about a year to really, create or, break through to. And it's not that it's hard necessarily to break through and have one of these experiences, but it's that it requires dedication, it requires vision, and you have to intuit that there's more to this experience that you're not able to currently perceive because your awareness is too low.
Yeah,
And
the big
yeah,
one is just open-mindedness, just being
I
open
was gonna say,
to
yeah,
to the possibility of spiritual awakening, and also understanding intellectually, like, what does that mean? Other people claim to have spiritual awakenings.
exactly.
Let me get a book or two from a Zen master, and let's see what he has to
And the
say
stories
about
are
that.
consistent too. It's
Yeah,
like a
like,
science experiment. It's like, there has to be a sense of consistency within the experiment. It's like anyone has to be able to replicate the experiment. And within spirituality, it's like, okay, do these practices and like this will happen.
and
So it's really
in a lot
scientific,
of
very
cases, it
grounded.
works.
Exactly. A
Crazy.
lot of the breakthroughs, it has to do with simply understanding like what you're trying to do, like what is self-inquiry, like what are you actually trying to do with self-inquiry. So a lot of people can sort of screw up the practice because they don't really understand what they're trying to do. Like what you're
Exactly.
trying to do with self-inquiry is you're trying to commit psychological suicide, really. You're trying to destroy the entire self-image and idea of you so that you can have a radical recontextualization of what it is that you are.
We're
And
basically
when I say
trying to,
psychological
yeah,
suicide,
yeah,
there's no harm being done to you whatsoever. It has nothing
yeah,
to do with harming you in any
yeah.
way.
So your body is safe, your body's
Yes.
secure, but during the
Your
practice,
idea of yourself is screwed.
yeah, your idea of yourself is on the verge of annihilation, because you're taking all assumptions, ideas, beliefs, and realizing they're a fucking story. It's
Exactly.
literally a story, as if you're reading a children's book. It's not real,
I'm
it's fiction.
I'm currently reading this book by Adyashanti. It's called Falling into Grace. I know it's reversed, but
No, it's
he was
not.
talking about
Yeah.
this. Oh, it's not. Oh, on
No,
my on
yeah,
my
it just
thing.
seems, yeah, to you.
Oh, okay, that's strange.
I
But
love
so
Adya
he was
Shanti.
talking about, yeah, he's one of my favorites. He was talking in this book about this quantum physicist on the radio, just saying how all of our thoughts are not true, and all of our thoughts are simply models for reality and not reality itself, which is a pretty profound statement. And he related it to how our own thoughts about ourselves are just simply not what we are, and they're just not true about who and what we are. And that is a hard thing for most people to sort of come to grips with, that no thought that we have is really true. Like a lot of people find their whole sense of reality and identity with the thinking mind, because the thinking mind is hypnotizing. It's always active, and
Yeah,
you just find your sense of self in that.
yeah. So what that means is that if you think of something like, what is the world? The world is just a planet that is revolving around the sun, that is in the Milky Way galaxy, that, we live in a three-dimensional world. There's, the speed of light, the law of gravity. I'm a person, I'm a human being, I'm a biological monkey entity somehow. My body's made of cells. See, what is this but a thought?
But a model
This
for
is a
exactly.
narrative, and this is not true.
Exactly.
And
There's a good Einstein quote. It's time and space are models for thinking. Yeah, I love that one. It's like they aren't, time and space are not fundamental to reality. They are models for thinking. Something
amazing,
along those lines.
amazing.
Yeah,
So time, some people, they take some mushrooms and then they're like, oh wow, time is an illusion, right? It's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
yes,
That's usually one of the first things that a person on the path can realize. It's like, oh, like, I create a sense of past and future. And even the present moment is technically an illusion, because to even label this the present moment, that can only be, that whole idea can only arise in relationship to a past and a future. So even labeling this right here, the present moment is already going, a step too far.
because we're talking about duality and the limitations of
Exactly.
language, right? So just to call anything something, like to
Is already to
call,
distort what it is.
exactly. So
Exactly.
even to call reality the present moment, we're already making distinctions and we're already making comparisons and categories.
Yeah, we already have our, raw experience of it, and then we're overlaying our ideas on top of it.
Yeah.
And then we're confusing the two.
Yeah. So what was like a big obstacle that you maybe had to overcome in the past, or maybe you're still working through something you're trying to reconcile? What would you say is a big obstacle to just like being on the path
Growing too?
and
Yeah.
growing as a person? Yeah.
A big obstacle can be limiting beliefs, and they are really sneaky because your whole mind's way of working is just to keep you alive, really. It's not about truth or changing you or growing. And you can tell yourself a lot of this stuff, but your mind is 100% designed for keeping you alive and safe. And growing involves the death of your current self-image and, your current way of viewing the world, your current level of consciousness. So change equals death, really. And
Yep.
your mind will construct a lot of limiting beliefs and narratives in order to prevent you from changing or growing, changing your views on anything, or having
That's why going
existential
to the gym
breakthroughs.
is so hard for people, because in order for you to go to the gym, you have to kill the lazy
Yes,
couch potato version of yourself, and it actually feels
exactly.
like death because it is death.
Exactly. It's like a whole new routine and structure to your life.
Yeah, and
And as you
you
go on the
become a different
spiritual path,
person.
as you're on
Yeah.
the path, really, you're more open to change, you're more open to new ideas, you're more open to death, really. The whole sort of it's seen through as like this illusion, like your mind creates these like grand narratives about, how this is a bad thing if you were to do this. And if you do this spirituality stuff, you'll believe in woo-woo nonsense. And if you go to the gym, people will laugh at you because you're fat and you're a couch potato. So don't go to the gym. And you're
Yeah.
too stupid to read that book. And you
Yeah.
can't create your own business. You
Yeah.
can't do that. You got to work at your job.
Yep.
And there's a whole bunch of, deceptions upon deceptions upon deceptions of bullshit, of just raw storytelling nonsense that your mind has created in order to keep you in your current situation, whatever that
Because
might be.
reality is a story. So your
Yeah,
stories seem like reality. So if some people will say, no, Lucas, you don't understand. I actually am too lazy to start a business, or like,
yeah,
I actually am too fat to go to the gym. Like, people actually will laugh at me. See, it seems like reality. That's the point of a belief. When you're holding a
exactly.
belief, you don't know it's a belief. You think you actually have the reality. But something in spirituality tells you that all thoughts, all beliefs are not
Not
reality.
true. Yeah, exactly.
And there's
Yeah,
a lot of freedom there to create your life consciously.
yeah. So even in this book, Falling into Grace by Adyashanti, he was mentioning that people bring up, traumatizing events that happened in their life. So one example will be this older, not older lady, but maybe middle-aged lady. she was, recalling some memories of her when she was, 6. And, it was her crying in her room, and, like she wanted love from her mom. And, she was still holding on to this memory of like, my mom didn't give me the love that I deserve. And, she had the whole memory in there, and she had her whole interpretation of it and her whole story about the memory. And Adyashanti just, would tell her to bring it up, but, like what happens when you stop telling the story about it, like it's less traumatizing and it's more accurate too, because, we have all sorts of ways of thinking about things that are just made to serve ourselves without actually sort of understanding the bigger picture.
So it's like a distorted, selfish
Exactly.
version
also,
of the story, but it's not the actual
yes,
thing that
it's
happened.
it's not at all the thing that happened. There was also a study that happened with college kids, and they told these college kids maybe like a 1-minute story, and then right after they asked them to repeat the story, and then an hour later, and then like the next day, and then the next week, and then the next 2 weeks. And then as time went on, the story became practically unrecognizable. It was completely off. And it just shows how well our mind can pull, out memories and ideas and just distort them, simply just corrupt them because, a lack of awareness.
Yeah, and that corrupting influence is even stronger if it's a personal story. If it's something that's like a traumatic event, the ego will corrupt it even more because it's so personal.
You're finding your sense of identity in it. And yeah, exactly. You're trying to get some kind of need met. It's like my girlfriend cheated on me and she's a bitch, I can't have sex.
So you're trying to meet a selfish need, and then the story serves
my mom didn't
your
give me the love I want. Exactly. Exactly. It's always relating to, the psychological needs.
So you could say you could say raising consciousness or being on the path is about becoming aware of all of the ways where you're twisting and distorting the truth.
That is exactly
in order to serve an imaginary self that you've imagined that you are.
Yes.
So as we move higher in spiral dynamics, like into stage yellow, into tier 2 awareness,
quantum leap.
we start to now realize not like the stories that I'm actually telling are constructs. They're actually made up. And that brings a lot of power, because now we can look at a system and understand we can deconstruct it and understand how it actually works, as opposed to how we want it to work.
Exactly. And we can also create a healthier system, a more functioning system.
Yeah. So if you wanted to make change in the political climate of our world, most people would just say, oh, we just need more of my ideology. If we just need more of whatever I believe. Yeah. Right. But if you take it from a higher
spiral dynamics,
a tier 2 approach, you'll see like, oh, we don't need more of what I believe. What we really need is more harmony and balance in the system. So you're able to
understand where people are at, what their needs are, and how to meet them and push them up to higher levels of development.
Yeah, we need to meet other people's needs and help them grow.
Exactly. And thinking about deconstructing systems and thoughts and all that, the only way to truly understand something is to transcend it, because this reminds me of Gödel's incompleteness theorem, where within a set of axioms, it's either incomplete or inconsistent, and then you sort of have to go meta on it, sort of, understand it really.
Ken Wilber, continue.
So a good example is like, to really understand the nature of the human mind, you can't do that really just by using the mind. You have to use something prior to thought, which is awareness. And you have to really go beyond the mind entirely to really understand what the mind is really doing here in the world.
Yeah, Ken Wilber, he's such a beautiful way of saying, Ken Wilber frames all growth as subjects becoming objects. So what that means is whenever you're growing, a subject is a position where you're looking out from. So a subject is like who you think you are. So a subject is like me. It's a sense of me, right? only when you can make that subject into an object, which means you can step out of your
Objectify
shoes
it, just like self-inquiry.
and objectify your sense of self, that is growth. You can't grow when you're
from
looking
within the limitations of that like structure of consciousness or form.
You have to step back from it and observe it so that you can see it
transcend
as an illusion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
awesome.
I love Ken Wilber, man. Ken Wilber is one of my favorites.
Ken Wilber's the best. I'm like halfway through The Religion of Tomorrow. I've been reading it for a year. I'm still getting through it.
I have a stack of books and it's all the way at the bottom because that book is like this thick and it just supports all the books on
all
top
the other
of it.
books.
It's like a brick. Yeah. I got like a solid foundation for all the other books.
Whenever I read that book, I have to bring like a sweat rag so I can just wipe the sweat off my brow.
Lemon water and get the electrolytes going.
Yeah. I'll read for 30 minutes and be exhausted. I have to go to sleep after.
Yeah, you gotta rest up.
It's awesome though, and a lot of those concepts I bring into my videos. My last video I was talking about involution and evolution, but anyways, if you'd like, check out Lucas's channel. He just released a video, three
habits for developing
self-awareness. Yeah, and he talks about meditation, reading, psychology, and he also, what was the third one? Was it surrender or
I forgot. I recorded it a few days ago.
Yeah, I was reading psychology.
I can pull it up. I'm gonna pull it up.
Meditation.
Journal, writing down.
And eating healthy was like a bonus one as well.
Yeah,
journaling.
In the both. Yeah.
Journaling. Yeah. So those are all extremely important basic practices.
Yeah, like just building the foundation. Exactly.
Yeah. So check out Lucas's channel. I'll have it linked in the description.
When it comes to creating a vision, if you're not crystal clear about it, that's okay because like that's a process, like you'll have to figure it out and it'll take a while. But a good question is just how do you want to feel about your life and how do you want to feel in your life? It's like you want to be happy and notice things that you're doing and, things you're investing your time and energy into that aren't creating, that sense of fulfillment for you and just eliminating them, like realizing like this is not for me. If you're eating junk food all the time and you want to feel great, it's like, okay, like I'm gonna have to do something about this. Or if you're playing video games and you feel depressed and you can't talk to a girl, it's like, okay, I'll have to remove this. So getting in touch with just how you want to feel in life can help you with your vision.